Nira Vellan was going to die in the cold waters of Thalassa 9, and she knew it with absolute certainty. The Cerelian xenobiologist clung to debris from her wrecked hover-skiff, the storm throwing her around like a toy. The water was cold, not freezing, but cold enough that her amphibious physiology was shutting down. Her long, webbed ears detected the warning signs: slowing heartbeat, failing motor control, consciousness beginning to fade. She'd sent a distress signal, but the research station was 2 hours away. She had maybe 20 minutes before hypothermia killed her. Then through the sheets of rain and spray, she heard it, an engine sound. Something primitive, combustion-powered. And she saw it, a small wooden fishing boat, maybe 8 meters long, riding the waves with practiced efficiency. At the helm was a lone human, fighting to control the vessel through the storm. By all logic, he should continue to shore. His boat was barely handling the storm. Stopping to attempt rescue could kill them both. But Tom Mercer had spent 40 years on Earth's oceans, and he'd never left someone to drown when he could try to help. He brought the seafarer around, fighting wind and waves, shouting instructions to Nira that she could barely hear. She had to let go of debris and swim to him, maybe 20 meters through waves that wanted to tear her away. It was the hardest swim of her life, her cold-numbed limbs barely responding. But Tom was there at the rail, reaching down, grabbing her arm and hauling her aboard with surprising strength. She collapsed on deck, shivering uncontrollably. Tom immediately wrapped her in thermal blankets. "Hold on," he shouted over the storm. "Shore's close, we'll make it." The journey to shore was a battle against nature's fury. Tom's boat, the Seafarer, was built for Thalassa 9 conditions, but wasn't designed for storms this violent. The wooden hull creaked and groaned. Taking on water Tom had to pump out manually while keeping the boat pointed into waves. Nira tried to help despite her hypothermic state, but her Cerelian physiology was shutting down. The water temperature that Tom found merely uncomfortable was potentially fatal for her species. She shivered so violently she could barely hold onto anything. Tom recognized severe hypothermia. He'd seen it before in fishermen caught in cold water. He knew she needed warmth immediately, but there was no cabin, no heater beyond the engine compartment. He tied the tiller in place, trusting the seafarer to hold her course, and moved to Nira. He pulled her close, wrapping them both in thermal blankets, using his body heat to warm her. "I'm sorry," he said over the storm. "This is going to be uncomfortable, but you'll die from cold if we don't get your temperature up." Nira, barely conscious, understood through the fog that this human was trying to save her. In Cerelian culture, physical contact with strangers was avoided. Their society valued personal space. But she was dying, and this human offered warmth that meant survival. She didn't resist, letting Tom's body heat seep into her cold shock system. Tom's experience showed through. He knew these waters, how to read waves, how to use wind instead of fighting it. The seafarer was old but well-maintained, responding with the reliability of a vessel cared for by someone who understood boats weren't just machines. They're partners in survival. Through rain and spray, Nira saw shore approaching, a rocky beach backed by cliffs. Tom aimed for a sheltered cove he knew, where cliffs broke the worst wind. The landing was rough, the seafarer grounded with force that made the hull groan, but they were on solid ground. Tom helped Nira off the boat, half carrying her up the beach to a small shelter he maintained for emergencies. Inside, out of wind and rain, he started a fire and continued warming her up. Nira's shivering gradually lessened. Tom gave her hot tea, wrapped her in dry blankets, monitored her condition with careful attention. "You're going to be okay," he said in accented standard galactic. "Storm's passing. Your people will find you soon." Nira managed to speak for the first time. "You saved my life, thank you." Tom just nodded, adding wood to the fire. "Couldn't leave you out there, not how I'm built." As the storm passed and Nira's condition stabilized, they had time to communicate. Nira learned that Tom was a retired fisherman from Earth who came to Thalassa 9 seeking solitude and the challenge of fishing on a world where oceans were even more demanding. "Why did you risk your life for me?" Nira asked when she was warm enough to think clearly. "You didn't know me. Your boat could have been destroyed." Tom considered while preparing food on the camp stove. "Because it was the right thing to do. I've been fishing 45 years. Seen people drown because no one stopped to help. Decided early on I'd never be that person. the one who could have saved someone, but chose not to because it was inconvenient or risky. He handed her soup. Besides, the seafarer's tougher than she looks. Your culture values individual rescue over collective safety? Nira asked. In Cerelian society, we calculate risk and benefit. The mathematics suggest you should have continued to shore. Maybe, but I'm not interested in mathematics when someone's drowning. I'm interested in whether I can live with myself if I don't try. Tom's philosophy was simple, but profound to Nira. The idea of choosing compassion over calculation, valuing individual life over statistical optimization, was both foreign and admirable. They talked through the night as the storm dissipated. Tom told her about Earth's oceans, about fishing communities, about losing his wife and choosing to spend remaining years doing what he loved. Nira told him about Cerelian culture, their amphibious homeworld, her research into bioluminescent organisms. Sounds like important research, Tom said. Sorry you lost your equipment. The research can be repeated. My life can't. You made the right choice, even if my people might have made different calculations. Tom smiled. Sometimes the heart knows better than the head. That's something I learned fishing. You can calculate all you want, but sometimes you just trust your instincts about what's right. When morning came, Nira's research station sent rescue. They found her safe in Tom's shelter, recovered and full of praise for the human who saved her. We tracked your beacon, the team leader said. When we saw the storm intensify, we assumed, we're glad you made it. I wouldn't have without Tom, Nira said. He pulled me from the water in conditions that should have killed us both. The incident became well known in both human settlements and Cerelian research community. Nira wrote a detailed report not just about her near-death experience, but about human rescue culture and philosophy that prioritizes compassion over calculation. Her observations sparked discussions in Cerelian academic circles about whether their emphasis on risk assessment might be missing something important about individual action and moral courage. Tom returned to his fishing routine, largely unbothered by attention. He declined most interview requests. I did what anyone should do, nothing special. But Nira knew better. What Tom did was special. Not because it was technically difficult, though navigating that storm required extraordinary skill, but because it represented choosing to value another being's life above his own safety. She returned to research after recovering, but maintained contact with Tom. They developed unlikely friendship, elderly human fisherman and Cerelian xenobiologist, bonded by shared experience and mutual respect. Nira brought Tom samples from her research. Tom taught Nira about reading thalassa 9, whether patterns through observation and instinct rather than just sensors. One day, months after the rescue, Nira asked, if the situation had been reversed, if I had the boat, do you think I would have stopped? Or would Cerelian training have told me the risk was too high? Tom considered carefully. I don't know, your culture is different, but I think when you're actually in that moment, when you see someone drowning and you have power to help, culture and training matter less than you think. It comes down to whether you can imagine living with yourself if you don't try. He paused, and I think you would have tried. Because you care about life, that's why you became a biologist. Caring about life means caring about individuals, not just statistics. Nira's long ears lifted in thoughtful agreement. Perhaps you're right. Perhaps in the moment, I would have chosen as you did. And that, Tom said with a smile, is what makes us more than our programming. That's what makes us conscious beings capable of compassion. Years later, when Nira published her landmark study on interspecies cooperation and rescue behaviors, she dedicated it to Tom Mercer, who demonstrated that compassion requires no calculation. And Tom, continuing his fishing, carried the memory, not as trauma, but as affirmation of his life philosophy. When someone needs help, you help. No calculation required. The seafarer still rides the waves, maintained with the same care. On her hull, Tom added a small symbol, a Cerelian glyph meaning, compassion guides us home.